Hey, Dan Cucimillo along with Bora here for NorCal Sports Network with a video on the San Francisco Giants and specifically Buster Posey means business. Before we get into this video, let us thank our sponsor, Chapman Law Group, located in Marin. You can give them a call at 415-613-9483 for all your legal needs. They specialize in personal injury. So if you have a personal injury situation, call Chapman Law Group. Let them know that NorCal Sports Network sent you. The call's free. The consultation's free. So give them a call. All right, Bora, the Giants pulled off the surprise of Major League Baseball yesterday on June 15th on Father's Day. Buster Posey pulls off an incredible deal, getting Rafael Devers to come to the Giants for Kyle Harrison, Jordan Hicks, James Tibbs, and Bello. I can't remember his first name, but he's a 19, 20-year-old pitcher in, I think he's in the Arizona Complex League right now. Anyway, this was a massive deal. Maybe, as I look at history, it might be the biggest deal in San Francisco Giants history. Now, they pulled off deals like getting Jeff Kent and getting Kevin Mitchell and guys like that in trades, but they weren't stars when they traded for those guys. They became stars, but they weren't a star at the time. So what the Giants and Buster Posey just pulled off is incredible. And as I look at this deal, Bora, this is the deal. This is why Buster Posey is here, why he came to the Giants to run baseball operations. Because as we look at what the Giants had previously in Farhan Zaidi, look, Farhan's a good baseball man, but he's not a number one guy to run the show because he doesn't have the I don't know what you want to call it, but just the tenacity, the fortitude. Yeah, the it factor. He just didn't have it. He did. Every time he spoke, people used to cringe. It was like, oh, and he just looked nervous when he spoke. He seems like a really good baseball guy behind the scenes, but to be the front of the operations, it just wasn't working out. And, I've been on NorCal Sports Network. We've been talking about the Giants for 2 years, and people would get on me because I said, I don't want the Giants to win. Last year, in fact, I was rooting against them, and people are saying, well, you're not a real fan. I said, no, I'm a real fan. I just know they're not going anywhere with Farhan because there's no feeling of vibe around the clubhouse that people are energized and feel like the club is really going in the right direction. And what I was seeing was that this was just a mid-level team that was going to be like a 500 team. And it was frustrating. I said, either win 90 plus games or lose 90 because the Giants were not going to fire him. But thank goodness for Buster Posey. In 2023, he was living in Georgia and he had moved there to be closer to his family and his wife's family and to raise their children. And all of a sudden, in the middle of 23 season, we get word that Buster is moving back to the Bay Area to be more involved in the ownership group. And we had a guy on our show that is a big follower of the show in the chat named Senior Softball Games. He said, I think Posey's coming back to become the president of baseball operations. And then we talked about it. A lot of people said, oh, he's going to be the manager. Maybe that. He says no. And then as you look at the pieces, I think the things were set in motion in 23. It was never going to be publicized that he was here to take over. And then at the end of the 24 season, when Farhan was let go, and the next day we get Buster Posey stepping in, and it's like the public persona was, yeah, I just thought about this and the owners, in the last few days and decided to do it. I personally, I'm not calling anybody a liar. It's more, like statesmanship. You don't say, yeah, this was in the works for a year and a half, but I think it was in the works for a year and a half because Buster Posey got tired of watching the club that drafted him, that he won 3 championships with, that he won an MVP, he won a comeback player of the year, he won rookie of the year. I think he won comeback player of the year twice, if I'm not mistaken. This guy loves the Giants, and he was watching a organization crumble under Farhan Zaidi. They were becoming the laughing stock around baseball. Many executives, many journalists, many baseball people were saying, what are the Giants doing? Nobody knew what they were doing. So I believe this was put in place, and that Buster says, I'm going to take over and I'm going to put this thing back on the right direction. And in less than a year, he took over at the beginning of October last year. And this club now, Bora, is in contention to not only make the playoffs, but make a deep run. What do you say?
This is a legit ball club now. This is a legit contending baseball club. And you said Buster Posey's just a winner. Everywhere he goes, he just wins. He's won 3 championships as a player. I heard you say it last night. His goal is probably to win 3 championships as an executive. That's just plain as day. He's just a winner, and I agree. I think he was tired of seeing the Giants not win because the Giants are a top market in the league. San Francisco, hello. I mean, it's New York, Chicago, Boston, LA, and San Francisco. Those are the top markets.
Correct.
So the people of San Francisco deserve a winning ball club on the field, and it just wasn't happening with Farhan. Dan, where's the worst place to be?
In the middle.
In the middle, exactly. If you're in the middle, you get a middle draft pick like James Tibbs. You're not in the top 5, you're not in the top 10, so you don't get that draft pick. And they were just, the lineup was constituted of just a bunch of mid players. There was no star. There was nobody who opposing pitchers were afraid of. And Ned Colletti, who's been on this show, he's a good friend of yours. He's said this time and time again. The Giants need to become a destination. And in less than a year, I could argue that they have become a destination. I mean, look at the top of their lineup now. You got Jung-Hoo Lee, Willy Adames, Rafael Devers, Elliot Ramos, and Matt Chapman. That's
a formidable lineup.
That's a really good top 5. And it's only gonna go up from here because as you were saying last night on the show, they have lots of money to spend. They still have, I think, 30 million to spend this year, and they have way more than that next year. So they're not done just yet. They're going to keep on making moves.
I don't think they're done. And I think Buster wants a much better hitting lineup. How about this one? How about Marcel Ozuna is a free agent this year? He's a designated hitter only guy. Rafael Devers has already said, I'll play first base, whatever the team wants. If you put Devers in there and you add Ozuna, now you get into a playoff run, and that lineup is deep. It's
scary.
It's scary. And Ozuna is not going to cost you much to trade for. You're not going to have to give up a top prospect because he's a rental. And if you're a Giants fan, you kind of want to hope that Atlanta continues to lose. Because if Atlanta climbs back into the race, they're probably going to hang on to Ozuna. And they're only like 6 games out of the wild card. This wild card thing has kept teams in there. Right now, as I looked at the standings, there's only about 7 teams that are probably out of the race in baseball altogether. And if Atlanta falls out, they would be the 8th. So I would love to see a guy like Ozuna come into this lineup. You're renting him for 2 months. And another thing, what I love about what Buster did, he did not wait till July 31st to go after and get into a bidding war where he jumped quickly. He moved with precision and got this done under the radar. There was no, leaks of any kind. It was such a surprise that Kyle Harrison was warming up in the bullpen and had to get, a tap on the shoulder to say, hey, hear the news that he's been dealt.
This is such a 180 from what we've experienced the past 4 or 5 years with Farhan. When Buster sees something that he wants, he goes out and he gets it. Willie Adames. That was apparently their number one target in the offseason. They got it done. They got it done cleanly. They got it done quickly. Rafael Devers was a target. They got it done. They got it cleanly, and it was quickly. When Posey sees something that he wants, he goes out and gets it. And that's a complete flip from what Farhan was doing. Farhan, I mean, his trade deadline was arguably probably the worst trade deadline just as a whole. I mean, AJ Pollock,
Mark Canha.
to back-to-back year. It was just bad.
Yeah,
and he just could not deal with other GMs. And Posey knows how to deal with other GMs. He's a former player. He knows how to deal with players because he's been there. And one of the things that is enticing and interesting to me is the communication aspect. I've heard it all over that Posey's a great communicator. That's the one thing I think that Devers was concerned about, and that was his problem with the Red Sox, is they just didn't communicate with him over the offseason with Bregman and then with the young kids, all that. It was just a mess. So I think Posey being a great communicator and being able to just communicate to the players, like, yeah, I know how you feel. I've been in this position. It adds an aspect of comfort for the players, I'd say.
Yeah, don't you think he kind of reminds me a little bit of John Lynch, the 49ers head executive, former, he's a Hall of Famer. Buster's going to be a Hall of Famer. And they are quiet demeanors, but they're very relationship oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes a long way. Players just want to know. I don't think the Red Sox would have had this problem, but they told Devers that he was their third baseman all along.
Mm-hmm.
And they signed him just in 2 years ago. The contract started last year in the 24 season, and they built around him. He was the star. They gave him a 10-year, $313 million deal, something like that. And I think he just felt underappreciated. And the fact that they signed Bregman and then they made him the third baseman, and they said, you're the DH. You're going to be the DH. Then Tristan Casas gets hurt. And they want him to play first base. And he said, no, you told me I'm the DH. And I think that it just was bad communication, as you mentioned. And I just think this whole thing with Buster, look, we bring up Farhan. It's not to go backwards. It's talking about moving forward. It's just a comparison to show how far the organization has done a 180. Okay.
In less than a year. It's
done a complete 180. And why that was so important to get Farhan out of the building is the Giants were going to continue to remain just pretty much average, right in the middle. Mm-hmm. And that was really, really a horrible place to be. And it's why I was barking for 2 years. You got to get this guy out of the building. You got to get rid of him. And a lot of people, nobody was really getting on that bandwagon until maybe the last 2-3 months of last year's season. Yeah. So I think we were calling it way before anybody else. And, I got to admit, in the offseason, I was a little skeptical of Buster hiring. I was like, I'm not sure if he has the experience to do this. I was wrong on that. This dude is a just totally first-class executive. And let's give credit to possibly Zach Maniason. We don't know exactly what he's doing behind the scenes, but I guarantee he was heavily involved in this trade. He had to be, maybe he was not doing the speaking with the Boston GM, but maybe he was, but maybe he was putting the pieces together and the pieces of the deal.
I also want to give some credit to the ownership.
Yes, I've been hard on him. And it's good to see.
It's good to see them allow Posey and Maniason to kind of let them do their job, let them work. And the good thing is with this Devers deal is you're still under the CBT for this year. So I'm pretty sure that next year it resets for the Giants. So they get they get a little bit of a break, which would allow them potentially to go after some big name free agents. I'm not going to name them, but
Well, there's not many free agents that are big next year.
there's one.
There's one, and I'll name him. It's Kyle Tucker, and Vladdy Guerrero Jr. signed. But with Devers in the books for next year, the Giants are committed to 6 players with contracts. And then they have all their eligible guys that are, that aren't arbitration eligible yet. So most of those guys are making $780,000, the bulk of the roster.
Yeah.
So it's $136 million that they have committed to the books next year. The salary cap right now is $242. It's going to go up. They're going to have over, let's say you add another $20 million with the rest of the roster, maybe even 30, let's say 30 million, you got the whole 40-man roster and everything. So you add another $30 million to the roster, you're at 166. If the CBT's 245, I don't know what it's going to be. That's where you at? You got 35 plus another 45. You got $80 million to spend. Okay. I could think of a way to spend a lot of that without even still getting near the CBT.
Exactly, and that's just staying under the CBT. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe this ownership group is like, all right, we're making money, we're winning, we can go over the CBT. Who knows?
Yeah. What if they wanted to go pay Kyle Tucker? They just said, you know what, we can afford it. It's going to keep us under the CBT. Let's go 10 years, 500, and we blow everybody else away. It's possible.
And then look at that lineup next year. That's
right. And I don't think it's going to take 500 million. I'm not saying it's going to take 500 million. I think Tucker's probably more in the 4 range. But if you wanted to really go out and say, hey, this is the plan, we want to get him. And here's the key. If Rafael Devers hits well at Oracle Park, that's going to be enticing to a Kyle Tucker.
Yep.
Yeah, there was a stat last night on the ESPN broadcast that said 11 of Rafael Devers' doubles would have been home runs in Oracle Park. And that means he would have 26. Let's say half of those were true. Let's say he only had 5 or 6 and it was 21. Still, because situations, you don't know the wind, the weather, the situation of the count, it all changed, but you can only go off of the actual stat of where the ball was hit.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I agree, Bora. This is phenomenal for the Giants. Look, when the Giants from 1997 to 2003, 2004, that's 8-year period, they were like in the top 5 in baseball almost every year. They were in the race. They were constantly, they had winning records every year, and they had real baseball people, Brian Sabian and Ned Colletti, running the show. And then they had to do a little bit of a rebuild during the 05 to 08 season. And then they started winning again in 09. And then, of course, 10, 12, 14 World Series titles, 2016, a playoff appearance. So you get the right people in there. As you mentioned, the big markets, New York, LA, Chicago, Boston, and San Francisco. I think San Francisco is the 5th market. And now there's no competition in Northern California.
So the whole Bay Area.
In the whole Bay Area, the Giants really can, and they've got this Mission Rock situation that is going to become a cash cow in the years ahead. They could really start to compete on the level of spending with the Dodgers if they chose to.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they have the whole Bay Area. They have Mission Rock, like you said. They have an opportunity to just blow everybody out of the water, because the Dodgers, as wealthy and as rich as they are, they have contracts that they have to pay. They have Betts, they have Freeman, they have Ohtani. They have a bunch of these guys that are still under contract, and the Giants don't have as many of those guys, and those guys aren't that expensive. So they have the Giants have some room to kind of work and put some pressure on the Dodgers.
Yeah, here we are, 2025. I think the window for the Giants to win championships is right now in the next 3 years, 25, 26, 27, if there is baseball in 27, hopefully. But the reason I say that, Chapman's going to be, 3 years from now, He's going to be 35. Adames is going to be older. Devers is going to be older. You got to strike while the iron's hot. And that's why I don't think they're done. I think over the next year or two, because as those contracts age with Chapman and Adames and Devers, and they start to become maybe only DH eligible because they're not as now you got a log jam.
Yeah.
So I think the answer right now is really go after it. Go get more players. If you can get an Ozuna, if you can get another starting pitcher that could come in here and be the number 3 or 4 guy. I mean, you got Birdsong and Root, but we don't know how they'll be in September. They've never gone that far. So I think you need to get a veteran pitcher. You know, I threw out a name just like last night who's a free agent next year with Baltimore. They're probably selling if they don't get back in the race. A guy like a Zach Eflin. He's not a star, but he might be able to give you 5-6 good innings as a number 4 or 5 guy, right? An extra arm.
That's all you can ask for, because I mean, yeah, like you said, Birdsong and Roop, they have zero experience in the playoffs. They have almost zero experience in the big leagues. So you would like to have to give them a little cushion to work on. And I think one of the most valuable attributes for a pitcher is innings pitched.
Right.
Because if you as a pitcher can even pitch 5-6 innings and allow less than 4 runs, if your offense is competent enough, you should be able to manage that. Your bullpen is lights out. So
Right.
you need guys who can eat innings and not tax the bullpen to be able to last this whole season, because the last couple of years the Giants bullpen has been really good. But the problem is they haven't had the starting pitching to help and complement that bullpen, and the bullpen has been taxed.
Absolutely. You got Carson Whisenhunt in the wings who can come up and give you some innings too. But, you know, if you mentioned less than 4 runs. Well, a quality start is 6 innings pitched in 3 runs or less. So if you could do that, you're giving a quality start. And then when it gets to the playoffs, it all changes. Sometimes you're just hoping to get through 4 for a guy and then get to your bullpen. And the Giants have an amazing bullpen. So this is shaping up to be a season that could be magical. And again, we owe it all to Buster Posey. He changed the entire direction of the franchise. He did a 180 in less than a year. The vibes are excellent in the clubhouse. You know, you've got Logan Webb as your ace and Robbie Ray, your co-aces. So you've got your pitching in place. You've got the young pitching behind it. Just add a couple more pieces, and that, I think, it's all you can do, right? We never know if it's going to be enough to get the job done in the playoffs, but you got Buster's laying the foundation to give the Giants every opportunity to succeed.
You just want a chance, and you just
Right.
want to get into the playoffs, and anything can happen in the playoffs. So you just want to be able to have a chance.
Absolutely. All right, guys, that should do it here. Wrap this up here, but thanks for watching this video. Comment below in the comment section. We read the comments. We try to respond to as many as possible. Tell us what you think of this video, and maybe some players that you have an idea that the Giants should look to trade for this year. Give us your thoughts on that. And make sure to catch us on NorCal Sports after every Giants game. We come live. We're here on live after every final pitch. So thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Have yourself a good day.